Did yours work?
Did, yep.
Perfect.
We'll get started.
That's what we will do. Except your microphone sounds a little loud. I don't know. Maybe it's my. You just say a thing.
Test.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're fine. Just really peaked there for those two messages, not messages. But hello there, everyone. Welcome to TapCaf Transmissions. I'm Corey, joined as always by my co-host with the host, Mr. Eckhart's Ladder. How are you doing today, Mr. Justin? You always have to say Mr.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Mr. Justin was my father. No, that's not true at all. I'm good. I got my Star Wars shirt on. I got threatened, by Lucasfilm, like you said before the stream. Had to take the LOL out of the title. Very serious business.
Yeah, they said they weren't going to fly back your employee who's doing the the review of Outlaws right now. So
yeah.
If you don't play ball, Zach is stuck in California forever.
Yeah, and Zach's really useful too. So like, Charlie, Mama.
But yeah, so we are going to be talking about the Acolyte episode 7 tonight. There is the Outlaws event that is going on where people are starting to get some early impressions of Star Wars Outlaws. So I'm sure we'll be talking about more of that soon.
I don't know what's happening. I didn't sign the NDA.
Oh, they didn't make you sign anything for it, even though you were sending someone?
I was supposed to, but I never did.
Oh, well, okay, so you can say whatever you want. I mean, I'm not there. I didn't get to send anyone. But so I've got no NDA either. So I've heard it's a Star Wars game.
I'm gonna be leaking things through you. I mean, I don't even know what they're doing, to be honest. I saw Battlefront updates. They're doing a claw machine. Other than that, yeah.
All right. Well, the main topic is, of course, Acolyte episode 7. We were gonna be doing the Temptation of the Force book review tomorrow on an additional episode. But Ilkin, who will be the guest for that episode, since Justin will not be joining me for it, Ilkin, after many, many jokes about how we're illiterate, we reschedule everything. He was like, Corey, can't do it till next week. So next Thursday.
Oh, is that what those letters said?
Next Thursday will be Temptation of the Force. And then since the final episode of the Acolyte is going to be next week, Justin and I will talk about that on Wednesday next week. And the week after that, we'll be back to some books and comics. So we'll be doing a Force Heretic Remnant on the 25th. But so anything else we should talk about?
Prepare yourself for Saurians.
Yeah, there's going to be some Siruvi back on the playing field after a long hiatus from the podcast.
You want to say that again? A long what?
So in Big Brother, there's someone who didn't know how to pronounce hiatus, and he called it a hiatus.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of just where I've been going for a while now. I know no one has any reason to have the context to know that.
My one go-to joke. Corey's got that one. That's pretty much it. And
yeah,
trying to start the podcast out in a funny way.
That's what I do for all Star Wars conversations: is bring in reality TV references that no one will understand.
Okay,
but what were your overall thoughts on episode 7?
Whoa. We don't have any news or anything we want to get to first?
I thought we just did that.
What
else is there? Well, there was we already knew this was happening, but Lucasfilm hiring more people to work on an animated show, which we already knew there was going to be more animated shows, so that's kind of a thing, but
yeah, I guess that's it. I'm just looking at the news here and not too much else. But yeah, so we've got episode 7. It was called Choice. And also for everyone watching the live streams, if you donate to Corey or I, usually, or me or Corey, usually we cover those at the end. So I do see your donations. It's just we record this in podcast form. So yeah. So episode 7, Choice. I had some very mixed feelings about this one, especially taken in the greater context of the season as a whole. There was a great political mind who said, you didn't just fall out of the coconut tree. You exist in the context of all that came before you. Are you familiar with that quote, Corey?
I, of course, the K-Hive. I'm always aware of the K-Hive.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my thoughts are complex. So I can't really give an elevator pitch. If this were just one episode, I think I probably would have dug it. I texted after this episode came out. I wrote to you guys that I hate this show, and I don't hate it, but I found this episode to be like kind of the epitome of all the issues I've had with it.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the episode for what it was, but my big thing I think was like I liked this episode, but it made me really reinforce the things I didn't like about episode 3. So that's kind of where I stand with it. Like I was interested in what was going on, even though like there was less. Like if you can watch episode 3 and you know you're getting a limited sense of what's going on, you know there's stuff you're missing, but the stuff you were missing, I feel like was hinted at so strongly that like I feel like you didn't. I said this with episode 3, but you got the explanation in episode 1 and 2. And then we were shown exactly that perspective in episode 3 with the additional hints of what was going to be fleshed out later. So I think if the show had committed a bit more to the idea of these being different characters' perspectives of the events, then maybe that might have worked a bit better. Because there's that sort of tenuous idea that that's what's going on, but you're also getting stuff that the character whose perspective it's supposed to be, they wouldn't have known these things. Like you're seeing scenes without them in it. So it's kind of just like pulling back the curtain a little bit more every time rather than being like a different take. It's nothing here shifted my understanding of what went on in any kind of fundamental way.
I wanted to stop you right there because Gwen's Gaming had a really good point. They said, gonna have to unsub. You're supporting this garbage show with positive vibes. Listen, this is a fucking TV show. I'm so sick of people thinking that I care if they unsub. If you can't handle an opinion, like if I've been very negative about this show. There are elements that I like, but like it drives me fucking insane that every day I've got to read someone with the mind of a child saying, there were things you liked, I'm gonna unsubscribe. Like, grow up. I don't care. Unsubscribe. Like, is this getting to you too? Because like I'm so sick of this.
Yeah, I've seen so like I can put out a review that's like starts out with like a fairly negative opinion of the episode, but then because I'm not going to dwell on that and I will also talk about the stuff that I liked, I'll get the same comments of like, you're being a shill. This is how can you support this? Like, what are you fucking talking about? I said the stuff I didn't like already. I said why I didn't like it, and there's other stuff that I do like about it. Like,
it's insane. It's a TV show. Like Red Letter Media. I don't like their prequel stuff. I think it led to a lot of bad discourse. I can still watch them without having to shit my pants every time they have an opinion. They hate Independence Day. I like that movie, but like I don't fill my diaper every time somebody fucking has a different opinion of me. This is a TV show in a children's universe. Like, grow up, get over it. Like, it's just, if you don't like it, that's fine. There's a lot I don't like too, but like the idea that there has to be like a uniform like dislike of something, that it's all or nothing, is like an absolute child's mentality. Actually, no, it's not, because my 5-year-old, there are like things that he doesn't like. Like he doesn't like Barbies, but he likes Barbie's cars. Cool. So like it's just, go away. Like I don't want to interact with you anyway. I've got 1 million subscribers. Gwen, I don't care.
If enough people unsubscribe, YouTube will make you send back the plaque though, and then shipping's on you. They don't send a return label with it.
That is true. And it's heavy as well.
Yeah. Like so one of the things that I was kind of thinking about when doing reviews is like when I'm watching or reading or interacting with something, I'm very rarely spending the whole time thinking, is this good or bad? I'm thinking about, am I enjoying this? If yes or no, why? And what am I responding to? So I've been trying to structure my reviews more around that. Like if something, I don't, the technical elements of something aren't usually a thing that I'm thinking about too much when I'm like reading a book. I'm not thinking about, oh, is this dialogue standing out to me? If it is good enough or bad enough to really stand out to me, then I might comment on that. But I care about my overall reaction to something and why I feel that way, more so than thinking about I need to come down with this solid opinion of like exactly where this fits in the hierarchy of good or bad. And
Mhm.
I didn't. It just feels really reductive to get into any kind of review or any kind of discussion having to have that position, because it ultimately, what does it matter whether I give this a 4 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10? Like, what does that number mean?
Yeah, and like, why? I just don't understand what the need for like. Okay, when it comes to core, when it comes to like core values, like yes, I'm not going to watch somebody who's a Nazi, like because
Yeah.
if they're a Nazi, their core values are just so different than mine that I'm not going to find anything they have to say interesting. But that line is somewhere between Nazi and I enjoy a Star Wars TV show
Yeah.
slightly more. Like I'm not fully negative about it. Like look at my title for today's video is The Acolyte is Driving Me Insane. But because like I spend the time to theorize or talk about things that I enjoy,
Yeah.
I'm gonna unsubscribe. Like, please. Like I'm sick of this. Like I'm in my 30s. A lot of you guys are in your 20s and your 30s as well. Like it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. Before I was a Star Wars YouTuber, I didn't watch much of the Clone Wars because I wasn't interested in it and I thought it was a child show and I was wrong, but I also didn't go on Clone Wars YouTube channels and tell them that they were fucking dumb. Like I don't understand it. It's starting to
It's
drive me fucking
yeah.
insane.
Even like as YouTubers talking about it, if there's something that I really just didn't like, then one of the most helpful things you can learn in life, if you're reading, like if you're engaging with any kind of media, is that you are not obligated to keep going with it. Like
So
once
true.
you learn, you are free to put that book down, put that show
Yep.
down, and then it can be out of your life forever. You don't have to seek it out. It's such a freeing
That's
thing to
what I
figure
did
out.
with the High Republic.
Yeah.
I knew that this book was going to cause me great displeasure, so I just stopped reading it. And that's also my job. All of you guys in the comments, for most of you, it's not your job. And even if it was, you can make the decision to step away. That's also why I started my hockey channel and why I started my other channels, because I was done with having to interact with things. I can only make so many videos about how much the Battle of Exegol sucks. And listen, talking badly about the Acolyte is the easiest thing you can possibly do. I could get 300,000 views, 200,000 views a video by focusing on all the shit that I dislike, but I don't need the money and I'm an adult and I don't think that's like how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
I'm
What
just
I'd prefer to
I'm just
do is every week put out a video about how I'm done with Star Wars for real this time.
I mean, I think like making a hockey channel, which is about as far away from Star Wars as you can get, is kind of like doing that in a way, but I mean, I do still like Star Wars. I'm still in for a lot of it. But
Yeah, and that's fine. But that's the other thing. I don't know that it every time it seems like the conversation ends up having to turn to this. It
yeah,
just doesn't stop.
it's
I'm still
it's insane.
getting comments on a short I did before the show started about how there was going to be a new type of lightsaber that they talked about in an interview. And the comments on that, literally everyone had the same goddamn joke that it's going to be a rainbow double-sided dildo. Like, go fuck, like, you could have looked at the comments and seen that everyone had made that joke before you, but there were still responses on all of them, like, someone had to say it, crying emojis. Like, no, everyone, all of you said it. No one had to say it. You all decided to find this video, downvote it, comment on it so it keeps getting put out there in the algorithm, and now more people who want to say that keep finding it. You've all made your dumb joke. Go away.
Yeah, and the argument isn't like don't someone says don't like it, don't watch it is a very weak argument. That's not the argument. I'm not saying don't like it, don't watch it to defend the show. I agree, the show is not that good. There's a lot that I don't like, but there's nothing productive as a grown man about or a grown woman or whatever about going and spending your energy hating something. If you want to do a full video breaking down and analyzing why it's bad, that's artistic. Reviewers do that, but that's not what I'm getting in these comments from people who are mad that I don't hate it to the same fucking degree that they do. Like my decimal point on how much I hate it is like slightly to the left. So like people are angry about that. Like needing some sort of uniformity of opinion from the people that you watch is like the most crybaby bullshit ever. Like read a book, and ideally read a book from someone with slightly different views than you, and like that's what life is. It's not, especially for something as fucking mundane and stupid as a Star Wars TV show. It's a Star Wars TV show. Like if you're getting this, I'm fucking spiraling here because it's so stupid. Like this is also, and like I just imagine having these conversations with. I've worked as a lawyer. You've worked outside of YouTube. I just imagine sitting there, like in my suit, talking to one of my fucking coworkers about how stupid this is, and that really brings it into perspective.
Yeah.
Like
anytime I try to say something in a review, I try to think if I were to read this sentence to someone I know in real life, how disappointed in me would they be? And if the answer is very, then it's a decent barometer.
Yeah. And like, and again, that's not to say you can't say something is bad. I think the show is bad. I think the show is mostly bad. I think there are some good elements. Like, but I don't find the need to like make it my entire personality. And like, I also there are a lot of people who liked episode 7 a lot more than I did. I'm happy for them. Great. But like, fucking move on with your life.
Yeah. Like one of the things that I've actually disliked most and like that I had the strongest negative reaction to in Star Wars were episodes of The Mandalorian season 3. And some of these episodes came out when like I was around a bunch of other Star Wars YouTubers and we were talking about it a lot. And some people liked it, some people didn't. But my response to other people liking it more than I did as someone who really didn't like those episodes wasn't to like yell at you and Alex that I was done talking to you because you like your opinion on it was different than mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's just crazy because like this is what the prequels were like too. Like I know a lot of people watching probably aren't old enough to remember that, but like this is the exact kind of negativity. Actually, it's not the exact kind of negativity because it was worse for the prequels because like this show is pretty small scale. Like I was fucking out there as a I'm trying to think how old I was. I guess Revenge of the Sith came out in 2006. So I was 14 between I was 14 when it came out, and people my age liked it. Well, I think like at that point it was kind of cool to hate on it because like back then you didn't just have people in YouTube comments saying they're going to unsubscribe to you. You had like you'd watch a TV show and they'd be taking a shot at it. So you're like fighting for your life out there.
There's a very specific flavor to some of the most like rampant abuse that's been going out, and as like straight white guys, we avoid a lot of that's been going out because there's been like fucking revenge porn done over this show.
Yeah, that's
like,
crazy.
it's been
that's why like
just insane.
It's pretty easy for me to say like unsubscribe if you like if you have a different opinion. I don't want you to unsubscribe because like that's cool. But like if like you are requiring me to have one opinion, then like But yeah, for me it's pretty easy because I can just click it off and walk away, and I purposely don't get in like these big fights anymore because of things that have happened in the past. But yeah, it's been it's been stupid. This show's
it's been a lot.
It was worse during The Last Jedi, I think, because it was like from 0 to 100, but now it's been from like 100 to 105, just like getting slightly worse. But
like The Last Jedi, it was a whole new ecosystem of like who the hell knew what could go on with it. But the discourse around the show has been so much less enjoyable than any negative thoughts I've had about the show itself.
I agree because like I don't think about the show that much, like the show itself. Like I actually do I was a little excited for this episode, and I'm excited for next episode because I think we'll probably see a Sith Lord, and that's cool. But like I don't know, like it doesn't. And when I was younger, I used to really get more affected. So maybe like that's part of the thing. Because when I was younger, I would be more affected by liking media, by like media disappointing me. Like Halo 4 was such a disappointment that like it really got to me for a bit. Like not to the degree that I was harassing people or anything like that, but the degree that I was like kind of angry about it. But now it's like, yeah, it's a TV show. Like it's cool. I don't like it, but people do, people don't. That's cool. I'm not that angry about it.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with disliking stuff and expressing your dislike of it or the reasons that you dislike it. But when you're taking it to that extreme and you're turning it into like if you dislike or if you like it, then you're, I don't know, some bad person or something. Then
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what the goal is.
Yeah. It's just like fandom is just there's time
Unhealthy?
that what?
Unhealthy?
Oh no, I was gonna rip on the company for a minute. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean fandom sucks because like all my like I've been to events and I know you've been to events too. And when I interact with my viewers, and my not just my audience, but like fellow Star Wars fans, whether it's like kind of in my role as like an everyday fan, like when I go to the theme parks or when I just go to a movie or when I talk to my friends who are kind of less involved. Um, it's fun and it's cool and like one of my favorite memories of growing up. Lots of them are about watching Star Wars with my friends and talking about it and analyzing it, like who whatever. But that's like what real life fandom is like most of the time, and then online fandom is just like a completely different beast that can be good often. Like I've met you through Star Wars, and we're very good friends now. Well, we pretend to be, um, but like, and that's brought me a lot of joy, and it's brought me income, and that's great. But then there's just this complete. It's just nonsense. There's also just a lot of complete nonsense.
Yeah. Should we maybe talk about the actual show?
I guess. Fuck.
Because we can similarly make the choice to not engage with those comments.
That's
But I
true.
feel like it's important to have said that because it's so present and it's so like I'm gonna fucking go off on shit again if I'm not changing the topic now. But like as someone who does primarily like Legends content, like I got in through making Empire War mods that focus on like Legend period novels and like my lore videos because Legends are what I know. Legends what I talk about a lot. So if I do new canon videos, if I do reviews of shows that are coming out, there's a higher incidence of comments like, I thought you liked good things and you weren't a shill like this. It's like, okay, well, you're it almost feels like trying to like uh kind of force you back towards like making the legends content as if that's the only thing that's out there or
Yeah.
like browbeat you into only existing in that box that they think you have to exist in. And it's just I don't understand the like I can understand seeing a video about a canon topic about a show and like I'm not into that, I'm not going to watch that, but having to take it to such a black and white, you have to like one or the other when like if you're someone looking from outside of the fandom, like the box of legends and canon, that's a divider in a box. You're not talking about two different boxes there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, people like Mandalorian season 1, and, like, there weren't a lot of people who were complaining about and, that's how it's different because when I'm doing Mando season 1 content, or when I was doing Mando season 2 content, I wasn't hearing a lot of, Legends wasn't being used as a cudgel against it, by as many people. They're all even the same when, like, episode 7 came out, and that was I think people soured on it a little bit, but episode 7 was, like, a phenomenally popular film. It was before I was doing YouTube, so I was only kind of consuming stuff then. But, like, that movie, biggest, highest grossing domestic movie ever for a reason. Like, it was popular, and then, I remember there was that channel, Jar Jar, Abrams, and, like, they were, like, I'd say one of the OG, like, negative people because they were mostly just doing, like, clipping his interviews and stuff, but yeah.
All right. Well, episode episode 7. So we finally got at least most of the story of what happened on Brendock. We filled in the blanks of what each character thought was going on. So we kind of see what made the Jedi take the choices they did in any given moment, as well as a bit more going from Anastasia. We saw what May was trying to do more clearly with the fire, where she thought she was just burning the kind of journal thing that Osha had been writing in, but instead burned down the entire facility. So fire safety is an important thing to teach your kids if you're going to homeschool them. I think that was the message of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say the part that I enjoyed about this episode, to me, the strongest part was the fact that we got a complete story, but we still, are seeing it through one bias. This time it's just the Jedi bias, where and it is kind of interesting where like the witches really were kind of just existing, like and a lot of the conflict comes from the fact that the Jedi bring their own, prejudices in. They see the mark on May's face, and to them that's like a dark mark. When I first watched that scene, I wasn't getting that impression at all that it was like something to do with the dark side. They do get that impression. Saul in particular, without reason, believes the Jedi or believes the children are in danger. And that's kind of I guess that's kind of the big reveal, because like after watching episode 3, I definitely thought, okay, like something is going to happen. A Sith is going to show themselves, or something's going to cause this fight, when in reality it's just Saul let his emotions get the better of him, and he and people are saying that the Jedi failed, and like I think that's partially right, where the Jedi themselves clearly did not agree with anything he did, but I'm not going to fully let them off the hook, because the Jedi also put Saul in that position, and it's kind of their worldview which causes him to basically go full colonizer on them.
Yeah, like the context in which Saul is making that decision is like, oh, this is a cult of witches. These are like the Night Sisters. They're using what we see as the dark side. So he's already by default suspicious of that. And then
From episode 3, that's not really the case.
Yeah. And then during the test, like it's basically, hey, 8-year-old, tell me everything about your your culture that you're still learning about, so I can jump to conclusions about how much danger you are or aren't in. But I think the episode still does a good enough job of like framing Soul's information and his choices in a way that you can see he's wrong, but he's still sympathetic in like his heart is sort of in the right place, but you can kind of see
I
someone
agree.
whose heart's in the right place can make these wrong choices.
Yeah, no, his heart's definitely in the right place, I think. And that's like, I think I would have liked the show a lot more if he were the main focus, because I think like at the heart of it, there's a really interesting tragic character there, where like he's basically wiped out an entire, or he's played a part in wiping out an entire family. Philosophy Tube, the YouTubers there, killed her, and like he's got to live with that, and it was his mistake, and he's been lying about it, and I do think that's interesting. It's just I just don't know how it ties in. Like, part of my problem is, okay, there was like 15 minutes of new context in this episode. Like I was extremely frustrated. I got a bad habit of doing this, I'll admit. When I'm watching an episode and I don't feel like enough has happened, I'll like check I was watching this on my TV, so I'll like check it on the remote how much time is left. And when I saw there's only 15 minutes left in this episode, I got pretty fucking annoyed. And like that probably would have been true whether this was episode 4 or this was episode 7. And I just don't know. I just don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still, I think like the core of the show, the core thing that the show is going to have to address is how May responds to being given this information, and then how Osha responds to learning this information. And I think they can still do that in one episode. Like, there's obviously a lot more going on with the Sith in the background through Chimere, but we kind of talked about this a little, where like part of why Chimere is such a big part of the show is because they had such a positive reception, like positive reaction when they were like starting to film Manny Jacinto. And so they got emphasized a little bit when he was, or not necessarily starting to film, but when he started getting involved in the process. So I do think we're going to get some more information about the Sith. Like there's an unknown starship, which does look like the description of Darth Tenebris's ship. So maybe we'll find out who his master is. Yeah, there's one of the few things that hasn't been in any of the episodes so far is like from the trailers is
it the one where she's like crashing in the asteroid field?
Yeah, it's in the asteroid field. Like you can see the asteroid field in it, and it's kind of sitting there. But
it looks like Tenebris's ship, the one from the beginning of the book.
Yeah, that ends up crushed in the mine.
Interesting.
But I think I think we'll get some information there, but I don't think we're headed for any major resolutions there. But
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say one of the things that I found a little bit like that didn't land from the execution on this episode is for something that is so strongly emphasizing like people's perception and people's perspective, or like trying to present that that's what it's doing. On top of my issue with like some of the scenes with Anastasia and Coral, Soul would have no way of knowing it. So we don't necessarily know how he's actually relaying this information to May, because there's some stuff that he just couldn't know in what's being done there. So
my problem is I don't care. I don't care. Like I don't care about May, and I want to, but I just don't really care about May and Osha. And like I 100% agree with what you're saying, and it does make sense that like I actually kind of like the idea of the Sith just like seeing this as, oh, you know, this is one fracture that the Jedi caused partially, and it was also a weakness in one individual. Let's exploit it. You know, it doesn't need to be the grand plan. It could be, you know, one further step. I like that idea. My problem is like the Chimera stuff has been far more compelling, and just the specter of the Sith is far more compelling than like May and Osha just haven't done it for me at all. And that's why I would have, I don't know whether it's I like Saul much better as an actor than the actress or what, but it's just so like if at the end we learn how May and Osha deal with it, I'll be like, okay. But for me, that won't be a satisfying conclusion, even though I think you're right when that's kind of the ultimate point of this season, at least.
Yeah, I do think that these flashbacks haven't generally helped make you feel more attached to what May and Osha feel about things, because like in the first flashback, then like there's a lot more emphasis on May and Osha at the time, but in the second one, there's really nothing, and they're both kind of absent for big parts of other episodes. So yeah, it hasn't done really that much to make that outcome feel that impactful, especially with like Soul being present all the time and them being present less of the time. But I think that is ultimately what it's trying to do.
I think part of the issue is we haven't gotten enough from they haven't got enough of their feelings in like the current day.
Yeah.
Where like they're switching sides. Obviously, like I think like the setup of the characters is fine as when they're children. One of them, you know, wants to stay with their family. One of them doesn't. That's obviously a source of great angst between the two of them. One thinks the Jedi killed their family and is partially correct. The other, you know, has really no idea the truth. So that's, I think, a compelling start. But like I couldn't tell you very much about how May and Osha feel in the modern day. Like obviously, you know, one of them is a failed Jedi, one of them is angry, but beyond that, like they're switching sides, they're switching allegiances. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't care like I should.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get more for what would drive modern day Osha than we do for May, where like Osha, I think there's enough to show that what she is going to value is like the fact that Chimera is being honest with her right now, even if he did kidnap her and is holding her there. Like he's being incredibly manipulative, but he's being manipulative in an honest way about it. Whereas like Soul with May, we it's a bit more of a question mark of what exactly May will or won't value about that. Like, is she going to have a positive reaction? Him saying like, "Oh, look, it was actually not entirely my fault, and I thought I was doing a nice thing, but I also did choose your sister over you." Like, I, I think May will open up a little bit, but like it's we haven't gotten enough with what her motivations actually are.
Yeah, I mean, because theoretically, like the true context for one of them will be a relief, and for the other, it's going to really piss them off because it's like what the base expectation was. Where like May thought the Jedi ruthlessly killed their
Yeah,
entire family and her, and to a
yeah,
degree, yeah, you know, they fucked up. But when you learn the reality of what happened, for some, maybe that's when you find out that's below the base, maybe a chill. For May, on the other hand, or for Osha, it's been a huge
yeah,
betrayal.
yeah. Like we do have Kymir kind of laying out the whole May just wants revenge, so we do have that, and that does track. But like, is Soul saying any of this really enough to change that? And is the idea that Soul and her could work together to go and track down Kymir and save Osha going to be enough? Like, will just the attachment to Osha be enough to get over that? But
I don't know, but it's got to happen in 45 minutes. Plus, we got to learn about their. I assume we'll learn a little about their true nature, and apparently, there's going to be another Sith. So um, there's a lot.
I feel like there's going to be another Sith thing, and any like machinations that Kymir has against his master. It's more like a, oh, you know that Thanos is going to show up at the end of a movie teasing Infinity War.
Right.
I don't think that's going to factor into it all that much.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it seems like they're going to be back to the planet that they were from, or what Brendal?
Brendock, yeah.
Brendock, yeah. Seems like they might be headed back there, so I don't know.
Like, I kind of feel like Soul and Kymir both just die. Like, and then maybe one of the twins. I feel like Osha ends up with the helmet, and that's kind of where maybe she meets the master, and that's kind of
Yeah.
where that's left off. And then like the broader universe takeaway is that Osha gets into the line of whatever the Sith are doing. But I mean, we kind of talk about this with every show where we get to episode like
Yeah.
7 of 8 or 14 of 15 and be like, oh, look at all these like open threads that they have to resolve.
Not Andor.
Well, it was kind of in the same place for Andor already, which made it a bit easier. But
I just so yeah, I don't know. Fuck, what was I gonna say? Keep talking. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
yeah, I just think generally the shows have had these kind of side things that maybe they could address that just aren't central to the plot of what needs to happen. And like we talked about it every time with Bad Batch, with Mandalorian, where like maybe I come away feeling a bit worse because they weren't addressed, and I would have been more interested in them than some of what happened.
Yeah.
But I also don't think they end up factoring too much into the finale. So I don't think I think it's probably going to be that kind of situation again.
Yeah, probably. And like I understand, and I'm actually right there with the disappointment of like not having the Sith be a bigger part of the show. Where like, Leslie Headland said one of her driving factors or one of her driving ideas was like how an apprentice finds someone to help them defeat their master, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, obviously that's like there's no time to fit that in to the next episode.
Well, we've got the how to find. We don't have the actual defeating
Yeah,
master, but we have the how to
yeah,
find
that's
part.
true.
Like that's kind of what they did do. I've seen some disappointment of like, oh well, this is supposed to be a Sith-led series. They promised that, but I'm pretty sure that was just based on Daphne Keene's interviews of like that portrayed it as like a Sith forward
Or
series.
like based on the scene she was in, yeah, I would think
Yeah,
that too.
because she's really only been involved in the stuff of like finding Chimere, and I don't know how much of the other scripts that she really either had or
Yeah.
put that much
I mean,
attention into.
probably not at all, based on like my understanding of. So, like, I will say this episode kills in a kind of interesting way a lot of the theories about like who could be the Jedi, the Sith master, because if you make either any of the Night Witches Sith, like if you make the main or the
Coral.
mother, yeah, if you make Coral a Sith, it completely takes away from, I think, it completely takes away from the message of this past episode, because the message really is about, like preconceived notions of other, peoples, and the ideas that you come into a conflict with and how that can completely spiral. So if that makes her actually a Sith, then that message is completely diluted. Where I kind of like the idea that, watching it like in isolation, she seems crazy. Like she seems like she's using the dark side. And on my first watch, I kind of fell into that a bit, but think about what's actually happening. She's basically told the Jedi to fuck off. She's told the other mothers that she's not interested in sending any of her children away, and now the Jedi have broken in again. So, like, bring the gat out. I think that's probably cool. Like, if someone comes to your house trying to take your kids, like, you can shoot them, and I think that's probably chill.
I mean, part of it though is that she was also the one that kind of encouraged May to, like, she wasn't just going after the Jedi at that point. She was also telling May, like, you need to fucking go in on Osha. Like, you need to make your desires known here. And like, she took almost every opportunity she could to kind of escalate, which in certain situations, that can be justified. But like, I feel like her and Torben are kind of the ones that you're shown having like the most selfishly motivated things, or the most selfishly motivated motivations. But like with Torben, he does get kind of mind fucked, and I feel like that's kind of been lost in some of the discussion about him, where he wanted to go home, and then he kind of acted in a really rash way to do that thing, like, oh, the fastest way to get home is to get the twins. But I think part of the point of that was that when Anastasia took over, like Anastasia took over his mind, it was like, you are going to do whatever you need to get home.
It's like
you
Inception.
just want to leave. So
where you go in and plant it in the subconscious and it affects.
So like Anastasia is kind of the flip side of Soul, where like if it's just Soul and Anastasia in that situation, they probably can come to some sort of agreement where like stuff didn't keep escalating, making them each do these kind of rash things that were possibly poorly judged, possibly more justified on Anastasia's side, because she was getting, like, their shit was getting invaded. But when she does that in Torben's mind, she's not really thinking about like what those paths to get home might look like for Torben, and it kind of backfires when Torben runs off to the base. Soul could have told him not to at that point. He could have not been like, hey buddy, let's climb the goddamn wall and break in. But he
what was it that was happening again that caused him, because initially he did do that and then he kind of went with it. I can't remember if they were doing something.
It was, I think that was when the mention of like, oh, sacrifice or something came up. But
I mean, Torben is clearly not 100% in his right mind, but he's also like, he's clearly a weak individual in a way, but also like the Jedi have kind of no business. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say the Jedi have no business being there, because they are, searching some pretty important shit. But like the Jedi in the council, like they're like, like fuck off, like leave the kids alone. Like you interfered enough, like, because you got this little girl believing she's gonna come, and we're not gonna let her like join. Like, do you want to be a Jedi? That's like me if I'm like my son once a week or twice a week. I'm like, I let him. We like have like a slumber party downstairs where we watch movies and shit. That'd be like, if you're good all day, buddy, you can come downstairs and we can have a slumber party tonight. And then at 7:30, up to bed, Go on.
You don't promise the kids you're going to take them to McDonald's when you called the manager and they said the McDonald's is closed already.
Yeah. And I did like that because I liked that. And it was a pretty elegant answer to the, well, I thought Anakin was too old. Like, because now we know, yeah, the Jedi knew she was too old. They made an exception because of like the extreme trauma that she had as a child, and like it was really the only fair thing to do. She had no other family, and then she ended up failing anyway. So I think that like that ends up being a pretty good, pretty good handling of the Anakin being, or her not being like another huge young Jedi case, really.
Yeah, and like I think it even ties into the question of like the Jedi just come in and take children all the time, where that's a thing that comes up in The Living Force when we read that as well, where that's like kind of a big deal in the plot of these people who kind of get uh the kind of get fucked over by how the Jedi do collect the younglings. And they mentioned in that book, and it's mentioned here that like, or it's shown here that like, this isn't the policy being followed, but there's still an institutional problem with kind of how that policy can or cannot be followed. Like
Yeah.
these things are happening all the time, and the Jedi don't seem to be doing all that much to stop it. So
The Outbound Flight was kind of like that too, where
mhm.
like Sabayoth turns into a total dickhead, and like they send, for one, they're like, yeah, Sabayoth just kind of takes kids, like you're not
Yeah,
supposed to, but he kind of just does, and then he like makes them do whatever he wants, and like
yeah,
he's actually a total dick. But, like, yeah, Sabayoth is a problem, but Sabayoth is also like one of the big Jedi of that era. Like, I
yeah,
don't think he's on the council, but he's leading the Outbound Flight project, which is like
yeah.
kind of a big deal.
Which you can also read that as the rest of the Jedi being like, get the fucking send
Yeah.
this guy out of the
Literally get
goddamn
out of the galaxy.
galaxy.
Go as far away.
But
You
he's
think he's gonna
also
get to
on a
the
ship with
barrier,
people who
he's
have
not.
to deal with them. Like it's not
Yeah, there's
okay.
like
This
tens of
this is not
thousands.
okay.
Yeah.
But I
But
mean,
like,
there's almost a representative on the Jedi Council that you can count on, and I know like you're out on Temptation of the Force, right?
yes.
Like I know there's a High Republic character who you do respect in Elzar Mann,
Mhm.
and he is offered a council seat.
Oh,
So
nice. I'm more interested to see whether he gets his bird wet.
can I tell you right now?
Yeah,
He does.
let's go. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. Um, so I was right. My theory about Torben having the scars, I picked that one up pretty quick. That was one
Yeah.
that I was pleased to have right. I was completely wrong about what would happen though. I thought there would be a splinter among the Jedi, and really, the angry Kelnaka was a fun scene. It's
Yeah,
the first
taking
time we've seen
over
a Jedi fight with a lightsaber in live action. I really am trying to think
a
of one.
Wookiee.
Have we ever seen? Or sorry, yeah, first time we've seen a Jedi fight.
That-
First time we've seen a Wookiee fight
this
in
guy
live action.
doesn't even watch Star Wars.
Have we ever seen a full-grown Wookiee Jedi? Because we've seen what's his name? The little one in
Gungi.
the Gungi, but he's only a little baby.
Yeah, and like Lobaka is kind of young. Not that young, but we never like
Lobaka's
actually see
probably
him.
like, yeah, exactly. I'd say Lobaka's probably by the end of it fully grown.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he's
So
not old, but he's probably physically mature.
yeah, George Lucas would have been he was not open to this until the Clone Wars. So it's nice that that's kind of changed. I do think like my one of my favorite things about the show has been the action scenes and like how they do tie in that kind of like martial arts movie style use of the Force with the fighting. I think that's part of why Episode 5 was so well received, because I think
Yeah.
like the overall plan of the story works. I
Yep.
think like generally there's enough going on with the characters to connect with them enough that the action, the choreography being good can bring that all together in an episode like Episode 5.
Yep.
Whereas when you're getting the setup, the setup feels kind of clunky. The dialogue delivery and the way they're delivering these things doesn't work as well.
Mhm.
But once it's all there and you just get to the action parts, I think it handles them well. And I think that's kind of what we're going to get with Episode 8.
Yeah, I
But
like the Episode 5 fight scene. Like people, there's a guy who he does like sword stuff, and he's like, yeah, they're not hitting each other. They're not trying to hit each other. Like the Jedi, like watch Duel of the Fates. like Darth Maul, 95% of the moves he does are not meant to actually impact. This was a YouTuber, I can't remember his name, but like, yes, if you look at do the Jedi fight in the most purely efficient way? They've got a lightsaber. You probably just stab and just keep stabbing. But yeah, I thought that the fighting has been pretty good and pretty Star Warsy. Like I assume we'll have a good fight in episode 8, and I think that will win some people over. But I mean, the show is kind of I don't think episode 8 is going to transform, no matter how good it is going to transform any full haters to full appreciators and vice versa.
No, but I feel like the tone after episode 5 was much different. So if it's a situation where we had like some weaker episodes, then a really good one episode 5 that most people like, and then some more weaker episodes, and then like finish really strong, I think that can really change how people feel about it. But of course, that just depends on how strong it finishes, how much like stuff ties together. But like with the
Ahsoka got the opposite, I will say. Like I thought
yeah,
Ahsoka's second to last episode was really good, where they like Thrawn's introduced, and then the last episode wasn't, and I feel like that really soured people.
yeah. But
Recency bias, but
with the Kelnaka stuff, I kind of got the sense that like once Indara broke that connection, like I thought they'd just passed. Like it was possible that they'd just passed out rather than dying.
mm.
Did you think it was like a definite they're dead situation?
Yeah, I kind of did. Like for me, it was like we've seen a lot about like consciousness, and I assume the witches obviously have something to do with consciousness. Like we've seen, we've seen the mind control, or not the mind control, but the kind of speaking in the person's head. Interestingly, we kind of saw Kamir do something similar to that too, where he was I forget whose head he was appearing in, like when they're running away in episode 5. But my thought was basically like they've kind of transferred themselves to him basically, or like their consciousness is around him, and then she kind of just cuts that off, and then their bodies without that spirit are
Okay.
killed. But I don't know.
Yeah. Another
But
thing that
like it's certainly ambiguous. They could still be alive, and they could be killed by the Sith. They could just still be alive. It could be any number of things, really.
yeah. I'd like in that I think probably more explosions happen with the facility, and they're probably dead after that. But I mean, like specifically after Soul makes his choice of saving Osha over May, and then they walk past the bodies. NSA is definitely dead because Soul impaled her a little bit. But I feel like the other ones, there's at least an off chance that they survived what Indara did.
Yeah,
But
I like that moment too, where she's like, it looks like she's fucking trying to rip the souls of the children out, and she's just like trying to teleport.
yeah, you maybe you warn people before you do that, but that
Yeah,
so
maybe like
that was
the black dust skull move should like have a slight disclaimer.
yeah, and he's not great at recognizing which one's which either, which is not like come on, man.
Yeah, that was probably like, there's a lot you can say about Saul and like, why he's an interesting tragic character. I think like that was like his least Jedi move,
Yeah,
and the thing he'd regret the most. Because
yeah,
you can understand, I mean, you can still understand it as like a normal person, but a Jedi is supposed to be up to a higher standard.
yeah,
Like I think a lot of people owe Indara an apology.
yes,
Where like she really did not. I mean, I wouldn't say she did nothing wrong, because at the end she kind of does like she covers for her buddy. Like she's like, we won't report this to the Union. Don't worry about it.
Well, she's more covering for Osha because at that point the sausage is made, and then you're just gonna fuck up the kid's life even more. But
I suppose, but I mean, she still ends up shielding him completely from responsibility.
yeah, like there's definitely that, but like Soul was going to turn himself in essentially for his own. Like it was kind of a selfish move there to get the kind of absolution that Torben thinks he's gonna get by chugging the poison, but
Yeah.
Indara makes the choice of like, look, you don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
But then that's going to be hanging over Osha's head forever, so it's not ultimately the right thing. But I understand a bit more why she makes that choice.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Maybe just briefly Coral, how like it was noticed after episode 3, she wasn't in the pile of bodies. We see in this episode that she teleports away when the rest of the witches do, but she's not in the little roller coaster choir that falls down after Indara gets Kelnaka free. Like, she is not part of that group.
And like that's why I'm wondering, because like I really think if you make her a Sith, you take away from the message of the show quite significantly. Because
yeah, I think there's something to that, but
I don't think you can have. I think it's much better if you have it just being a misunderstanding that completely spiraled out of control because of a lot of things. But yeah, her still missing is strange.
Like, I don't think she'll be the Sith, but I think she is still out there. Like, or at least she was still out there, and I think she's probably how May got out of that hole, like how she didn't immediately burn up.
Yeah,
but I don't think like that May and her have been in contact or anything. I don't know that May even necessarily knows that she wasn't killed in that pile. Like, we don't know what May's opinion on a lot of what happened was, but I yeah, I think there's something more with Coral. That's the one thing that I feel like maybe we don't have the time to actually get to while still being a relevant part, because the show hasn't even called attention to the fact that she wasn't there necessarily. So maybe it just falls to the wayside. But
I did like how Saul refused to fight her. He's like he's in his feelings. I don't know. To me, that fight was like, to me that kind of was a bit of a redemption for her in a way too, because like again, she's very angry, but like I think she's got the right to be. And yeah, she definitely makes mistakes too. But like when she's fighting Saul, she's like, fight me, fight me, fight me. Like she doesn't want. I think that like she doesn't want to strike down a helpless. Like she wants to see Saul as like a pure evil enemy, kind of like she thinks he sees the Night Witches.
Yeah, like her attitude is what we see from May later.
Yep.
Basically, it's the exact same fight as May has on that second planet where Torben was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
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 That's all I got.
Yeah. So I believe there was the super chat from Joel earlier. If you want to do that, and then predictions.
Oh yeah. We've got a couple on my side from Joel. Or first one says, do you think Lucasfilm will make any brand new Star Wars Disney Plus shows, or will they just make season 2 of ongoing shows before giving up altogether? It's an interesting question. I mean, we're getting Skeleton Crew for sure. We'll get season 2, and I assume he means live action. We'll get season 2 of Andor and of Ahsoka, and maybe Mando season 4. Do you think we'll get any new live action shows?
I don't think we're going to get none. Like, they're definitely heading more towards movies, but I don't think they're just going to like close the door on Disney Plus. It's not going to be the same situation where there's like 18 of them being made at one time, but I don't think they're fully done with that. And it's kind of just like how we've moved from movies to shows, now back to movies. I feel like that's going to be a cycle as different as companies figure out where they're going to make money or where audience interest is in at any given point. Like, we're starting to see the return of physical media as well, when 2 years ago that would have seemed very unlikely. And maybe that'll have a bigger impact on the idea of being able to put out DVD sales every year for a show versus what DVD sales might be for a movie. Because that was such a big part of the industry before. So like, I don't think it's that Disney is out on TV shows. It's just that is not the optimal thing to do right now,
which I find interesting, because I personally could not care less about owning DVDs.
Yeah,
like I completely understand why. Maybe we will like hit 1984 and the internet will be shut down, and those with Mando season 2 on DVD will be laughing, Blu-ray rather. But I'm glad you guys exist and I understand it, but it's I have no attachment to like physical. Yeah. Like, I don't have Funko Pops. I got like my little Max Rebo poster he gave me, which I love, but
yeah. Like, sometimes it's the resolution, sometimes it's the crisper picture, sometimes it's that you want the memorabilia.
Totally, I totally understand it. It's just
an extra revenue stream as far as the company is concerned, and like that. If like you watch the old interviews with actors, like what changed for you in the last 15 years, and there was or what changed with production in the last 15 years. And that was like, you have your first revenue stream when it comes out, you have like a second, and then maybe a third wind when the physical media comes out. And that's just gone right now. So it really does
That's
make it
also
a bit
true where like a lot of TV shows have another source of revenue that Disney Plus. I kind of wonder how they deal with it. Where like if you're on Friends, like you're getting a sheet every year from syndication, from reruns. I kind of wonder how that works with streaming.
I wonder how that works with Matthew Perry being dead. Is David Schwimmer getting
I
more
imagine it
residuals?
goes to like his estate for probably. We covered that in law school, some like a very similar situation, and often it's like they'll go to your estate for 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Mhm.
But
well, like animation's clearly not going anywhere either.
yeah,
But
yeah. So I think we'll get one eventually. I don't think they're in a rush. That was the first super chat. We got one from Dan who says, "For people who keep saying they're done with Star Wars, they sure as hell don't shut up about it." I mean, yeah, and I think that's fine. And like, I want to make it clear again: if you are done and you still want to complain, I really don't care. What bothers me most is like being ornery that like I don't share your exact same opinion, or that like I'm not angry enough. So thank you very much for the $5 there. The last one was from Joel, who says, "What do you think the Acolyte season finale has to answer in order to be satisfying, and what do you think the show is actually making important?" I think we've kind of covered that. Is there anything you want to add to that, Corey?
yeah, I think we covered that fairly well there already in the last couple minutes.
All right, so let's go into predictions. What's one thing you predict in the final episode? They've said we're going to have a Sith. Who will it be? And completely new is a valid answer.
I think with how much they wanted to bring in Legends references, we got our Bonneton reference in this episode. There was the big reference to the Great Hyperspace Disaster from High Republic, which isn't a Legends reference, but with how much
a hyperspace disaster, which I thought was weird.
It would, yeah, that it kind of would be like people referring to the Hindenburg as there was a blimp accident. It's like it's 100 years before. It's clearly what she's talking about. But I think it will be Tenebris. Whether he's still a Bith, whether we actually see him directly to know he's a Bith, I don't know, but I think it's Tenebris.
Okay.
Not a brave prediction for me on that.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I don't know. Like I don't want this to happen, but unfortunately, it is my prediction. I think they will bring Darth Plagueis in. Now, keep in mind, what do we know from Plagueis from what Palpatine told us? We know he's referred to as he, and he's a Sith, and that's about it. I'm concerned that he will no longer be immune. Immune, whatever. And the reason why I think they'll choose him is because he's name dropped in episode 3.
Yeah.
Big mystery there. I don't think they're going to be able to make the appearance work. I think like the amount of people who know Plagueis is kind of a weird one because like his story is really popular, but like he is also name dropped in the movie. So the amount of people who know who Plagueis is very high.
Yeah.
The amount of people who care about his appearance is high, and I'm one of those. I will be very, very disappointed if they change his appearance, not just because I really like the book. And it's probably my favorite Star Wars book, but also because I think it's just compelling visually. But like comparatively, it's low to the people who know what it is. So I think it'll be him, and I think he's just going to be either a human or I actually just think he'll be a human.
I think you are right on the reasons they choose him, but I feel like his part might actually be small enough that they wouldn't have to make him a human. Because we kind of talked about the logistics behind this last episode.
That's my concern.
I don't think it's I don't think it's impossible. I share your concern. I will be very disappointed if that changes. Because I'm all about having the aliens wherever we can. But I feel like he'd have a small enough part that they could make him a Mun. The question there is that always going to look goofy? Because Muns look weird.
Yeah. I also think they look extremely creepy. Like it's like Darth Slenderman, basically. But yeah, again, we have the only time we've seen them, at least as far as I'm aware, and I could be misremembering, but the only time we've seen them in live action is in episode 3, where they're fully digital.
Yeah.
Going to be very, very difficult. Episode 3, Mun, would not have looked good as Darth Plagueis. So hopefully they can manage it, keep the hood up, keep him in the shadows. Maybe you give him his respirator, even.
Yeah. I think that's the easiness, like the ease of using that image for Tenebris, I think is what makes him the likely choice, though.
I think that's fair. One thing that
I would like to apologize before we move on to the Mun community. I said some things there that I didn't mean. That's not what I believe in my heart. I unreservedly, I'm a different person than I was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's changed since then. He's more racist now. No. One thing that I would like for the Mun, for Darth Plagueis, if he's still that character and still looks like that, I would actually like if they had him in the creepiest fucking.
What do you mean by looks like that? Can you?
I said what I said. I would like if they completely made him just this creepy, even fake looking mask. That just like, I don't know. It doesn't need to. Sometimes Star Wars just work. Like the Bith, for example, are another good example, which is, I know why you mentioned it. The Bith don't look real. They look like they're creatures, aliens in a mask, and I think that works for them, and it makes them kind of unsettling. I think you could maybe do something like that for Plagueis as well.
Yeah. Masks just make everything so much easier.
Yeah, and like masks, I don't know. I feel like people, like when you have, people talk about Uncanny Valley, and maybe that's what it is, where like when you are making something digitally, you're trying to approximate it. You're trying to make it look real. Yoda in the original trilogy does not look real. He looks like a fucking Muppet, but I got no problem accepting, hey, that's Yoda right there. Yet when I watch episode 1 and they've got the new CG Yoda in there, I think, wow, that kind of looks like shit because I'm just imagining this being a chair. Like,
yeah.
So I think they should just, if they do Plagueis, they should make him just look creepy, look a little weird. Like, I'm cool with that.
All right, I have a very bad idea to pitch you.
Okay.
This can bring together all of the things that like people know about Plagueis. They know the name. You've only ever really heard the name, and the writing has been kind of not great. So we get a big monologue from Tenebris to Chimere talking about how I'm glad I cast you aside for my new apprentice who's not here right now. He's not here. He's back home, Darth Plagueis.
I mean,
the exposition. Think of the exposition.
I think he should say it's plaguing time.
And plague all over them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That could definitely happen. I'll be really unhappy if anyone from the show ends up being Darth Plagueis. Like if they make May Darth Plagueis, you know what? Everything I said about people being irrationally angry, feel free. That will be really dumb. Or anybody, or Saul Darth Plagueis, or whoever. It's just.
What if it's that Selkath in the background of the Jedi Temple?
That Selkath looked really good. Was that? I think he was masked, right? If they can do Selkath, they should be able to make Plagueis.
Well, I think again we get back to the whole: if a character doesn't have to do anything, it's much easier. Like doesn't have to say anything or do anything. It's much easier to have them sitting there.
You know what I was thinking after? I don't remember if I mentioned this last time. I really want to see an Ithorian Sith Lord because they're legitimately creepy. Like the Ithorian mayor in Book of Boba Fett is creepy. Have you been to? You've been to the Galaxy's Edge, right? The shop they have. I forget what his name is, but there's a big Ithorian there. He's like animatronic, and he's really fucking creepy, especially with like the translators on the side of his neck.
You were there for my entire Galaxy's Edge experience, so I don't.
We definitely went in. It's the place where they sell like lightsabers and stuff.
Okay, I think I was too busy thinking about whether I should buy Duke.
Yeah,
notice that
probably.
But that's my only thoughts. Any other predictions from you?
No, I think Saul's gonna die.
Yeah, I agree on that.
I don't think we're gonna see a light whip.
You don't think Vernestra is going to do anything?
Well, actually, now I'm kind of wondering because we know where she is, and we know. I mean, it seems like they might be headed back in that direction, so maybe.
Like Chimere is going to be doing something. Vernestra is going to be doing something. That's why I don't think anyone like fights
I
Chimere's
think we
master.
know there's going to be a I mean, I think we know there's going to be a. I would like it. I'd love to see Vernestra take on the big bad Sith and lose. Just like not. I don't. Does it make plot sense? I don't really know. Probably not. But I think it'd be sick.
Yeah. Like I think at minimum we get Vernestra versus Chimere. We maybe get Soul in on that action.
So who wins? One thing I will say, one thing I really liked, StarWars.com puts out episode guides. And they put one out on episode 5 I was reading, and they like talked about how the Jedi were like the training of the Jedi versus the training of Chimere, where like the Jedi were basically like they'd been practicing for ceremony basically, when Chimere was like he was like he was like barking dog, he doesn't care. He's just gonna kill folk. When the Jedi are like practicing their dance moves basically, and they just expect everything to turn out all right, and then he stabs a child 3 times. Very sick.
We brought here to dance.
Yeah.
Over under of 2.5 lightsaber duels next episode. How about that? You taking the over or the under?
How many would you have said were in episode 5? Over 2.5, I guess, because you have.
I'd put that one at 2, I guess, 2 different ones. That was like a continuous one where everyone's running after each other. But I think it's like big group versus Chimere.
Okay, how about we do combatants instead? How about we do over under 3.5 combatants? No, because
did Osha count as did May and Osha count as
they count as one. They count as one.
Power of many, power of one.
Yeah.
The fucking song at the end.
They released that. I actually quite like the song.
It's
they
a
released
fine song. It was very weird to hear in the credit. Like, what is playing right now? Oh, it's still the show.
Yeah, they released it like I think it was 4 weeks ago after maybe episode 3. And I was fucking waiting. I was like, it's coming. Like it's got to be this episode, the next one. It's coming, and finally did.
Like, I think we get a fight between Soul and Chimere. I think we get a fight between Vernestra and Chimere, and I think we get one other fight between somebody, and then May and Osha are involved in these in some way. But
yeah, okay,
that's my thought.
Pretty similar to what I'm expecting to. So no big Sith baddie.
I don't think he fights anyone. If he does, he just
kill anybody. Does he kill anybody? Does he kill anybody? I'm just going to leave it at that, including Chimere, perhaps.
I think he might just, whoever they are, might just absolutely murk someone. I don't think they get into a fight per se.
Okay.
They probably murk one person.
And
whoever wins a prior battle.
Yeah. That would be kind of fun. You know, it's like Vernestra's defeated Saul, or not Saul. Vernestra's defeated Chimere, and then he just eats her or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's like Darth Nihilus.
Just like that.
Darth Cunnilingus. Don't Google that if you're young enough to be yelling at me because I don't have the same Star Wars opinions as you.
All right.
Okay.
So I think that's going to do it for this week. Again, no Temptation of the Force review tomorrow because Ilkin turned out to not be able to read it. Next week, we will be doing the Wednesday night recap, just like this one, for the Acolytes finale.
Might
Thursday.
Do a live stream too. I don't know.
Oh, like Tuesday. Reaction?
Yeah. Right. Like a watch along.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'll be doing Temptation of the Force with Ilkin on the 18th. And then Justin and I will be talking about Force Heretic 1 Remnant in Star Wars The New Jedi Order on the 25th. Fuck. It has so many titles by the end of the NJO. Like, just reading through the title is going to take forever.
Yeah, the long-ass book.
I think we do know the runtime for the final episode is at least as long as episode 7.
It's the same. It's 43 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah, there we go. That's it.
At least allegedly, because the person who leaked the wrong title, but which is weird because we've known the titles. but I do think it'll be 43 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.